What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome into another edition of Mean Streets powered by FTN right here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you. Thanks as always for taking the time to hang out here. Man, yesterday rocked me. Not gonna lie, I got straight up rocked. It's not all gonna be victory laps here on this show. Jake Seeley asked me to do one on his show, All in Football, which you can catch on Game Plus Network this evening. Also, you can catch it Tuesdays, Wednesdays as well. Jeff Ratcliffe joins him on Wednesdays. Stepmom Lauren joins him on Tuesdays. And I was with him on Monday. He asked me to do a victory lap for Boston Scott, but I felt like weird even doing it because honestly, yesterday was a rough day. From a straight up pick'em day, I mean, I don't know how many games I got right. Like a couple here. I was on the Chargers. I took upsets on the Jags. I took upsets with the Lions. I thought the Lions would cover. Like they didn't even really score a point until the end of the game against the Eagles. Like backups. I thought the Vikings would roll last night without Dak Prescott. I took Cincy in a couple of my Survivor leagues. I'm done. See you later. Gone. Thought the Bucks would beat the Saints. Nope. Tom Brady just can't beat the Saints in the regular season. Turnover machine when it comes to playing New Orleans in the regular season. It was rough. I'll take a lot of L's. I mean, I had a lot coming my way. It's weird. Like sometimes I feel like for me covering, football and hockey and a lot of sports and, it sometimes I don't know if this happens to you guys out there as well. Like betting, not bad. Props, pretty good. Props were pretty good. Straight up picks, not so good. Done in Survivor. Fantasy, all right. Next week it'll be picks, great. Props, not so much. Fantasy, didn't get a W. It's kind of the way it goes. You hope that you can get a lot right. I don't know. If any indication of just how yesterday went, maybe the Giants win today. Maybe the Giants beat the Chiefs. Producer Tino is going to join me here in a little bit. We're going to talk about that game. I got some props that I made up last night. My guy George is traveling, so I gave him some props that I could find last night. I'm still not finding anything as of right now on Kadarius Toney or Sterling Shepard. Both are expected to play, and I'm going to be involved in probably both of their catch props. I think both of these guys, we could get like a Toney out of 4.5, a Shepard out of 5.5. We've seen him multiple times at 5.5 plus money. I got some Booker props for you a little bit later on. I do think the Giants cover this game. Last night it was 10, the spread, and now I'm seeing 10.5 that you can get the G-Men. Listen, we know about the Chiefs and the struggles. We'll save it for when Tino joins, but they have struggled not only to cover this year, but last year as well. We've talked about it a lot on this show, is that Vegas kind of overrates Kansas City, and they just haven't been covering football games dating back to last season. And now this year they're really struggling. They've had some turnovers, and the defense is absolute trash in KC. It has been at least this season. It's a little surprising too, because I think they have maybe the second largest payroll defensively in the league, and they're really not getting it done at all. So we'll break that game down in a little bit. We will hit the waiver wire. The biggest news of this morning, of course, involves Derrick Henry. There's no real timetable. There's nothing official. He is scheduled to undergo an MRI. There's some reports out there from Jay Glazer. I do believe he said that he thinks it's a fractured foot for Derrick Henry. There's been some 8-week timetables out there. That would mean, I think, a Jones fracture. It could be a Liz Frank, which would most likely keep him out for the entire season. Heading into yesterday, he was on pace for 464 carries. He was on another historical run. He has been unbelievable here. And I don't want to even see the tweets. You just got to stay off social media sometimes. Maybe even most times, get notified on people you want to hear from, and then just stay off in general. The victory laps on, zero RB strategy. Like, guys, he got hurt, man. Like, it's a bit of a freak injury. He's been such a beast now for a couple years, and he had 28 carries yesterday, and a lot of them came on that bum foot. He didn't have a great day against the Colts run defense, pretty good run defense, but at the end of the day, this is still a guy who's been really, really durable considering the workload that he has had over the years. And now, it's just a bummer to lose him because he's so fun to watch. He was having, like I said, just such a really, really strong season. We'll talk about some running back pickups in a little bit, but Jeremy Mcnichols is going to be certainly atop the running back rankings. And again, last night put together a couple lists and left him off because I didn't hear anything about. I saw him on the sidelines for a little bit with his cleat off, and he was walking around, but he came back into that game and he was playing yesterday. But we'll talk about the conversation. I get to talk about the conversation. We'll have one, I suppose, when it comes to, the fab to spend on him. AP reportedly going to visit the Titans and work out with the Titans this week. I think they have to make a trade, don't you think? I mean, they've rattled off 3 strong wins now. I do believe in a row. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bills. Nice come-from-behind victory last night and won in overtime against the Colts. They're right there. The AFC is pretty weak. It's completely wide open. We saw the Bengals yesterday lose, and we're sitting here with the Bengals and the Raiders as like the top teams in the AFC. Right? I mean, it's completely wide open. I thought originally maybe they'd make a trade. I don't know, like Melvin Gordon comes to mind. The Broncos had a win yesterday. Gordon had a pretty good game. It's been a good 1-2 punch between Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. He's on the final year of his deal. If the Broncos were out of it, then maybe that's a move that they could make and flip him and get a pick. I mean, I'd probably still make that move anyways if I was Denver as an organization, if I could get, a pick in return for Melvin Gordon. But at the same time, you're fighting with the Titans for an AFC wildcard spot. It's very possible. AP, there's other guys out there that they can bring it off the streets, like maybe a Todd Gurley, but how much are they going to get from him? There's other veteran backs, maybe a Damian Williams that they could acquire. I see the Tony Pollard thing. If you're Dallas, you're not giving up Tony Pollard. You're going to keep him. I just can't think of any other backs, like Marlon Mack maybe, but you don't often see those trades inside the division, but I think the Titans you'll be making some calls. Maybe a David Johnson could help him out. He didn't do anything yesterday. Maybe a Phillip Lindsay. The Texans are certainly selling guys, right? They just traded Mark Ingram last week. So there's a couple moves. We'll keep an eye on this. Maybe they make that move before waivers run. In your league on a Wednesday morning or a Thursday morning. We'll see what happens there, but that's the biggest news of the day, and it's pretty unfortunate to lose a guy like Derrick Henry. James Robinson, the news isn't as bad for him. It looks like he avoided a serious injury. He was looking really good to start that game yesterday against Seattle, and then there was a play on the sidelines, I think a long catch that he made, and then he was shoved out of bounds, and then he ran into like a couple benches and stuff. It's so tough when everybody's hanging out on the sidelines, and then you got the benches and the water cooler, and guys are coming full tilt. And usually everybody gives one last shot, right? They don't even need to. Like the guy was running out of bounds and they gave him a nice little shove into a bench, and it looked like he rolled his ankle. Then he never touched the field again. There were some reports out of Jacksonville I saw late last night. As a Robinson owner, I'm concerned, but I saw late last night that if it was a closer game, a more competitive game, that he would have been able to give it a go, and they were just completely done. But Carlos Hyde is kind of that next man up, so to speak, and we'll touch on him and other next man up, because this is the time of the year. Now we get into week 9. There's another 4 teams on bye. A lot of solid wide receivers won't be playing this week, but this is the time to kind of get your rosters set. I mentioned last week when we talk about buy lows and sell highs. This week, we will look at fantasy playoff schedules and down the stretch and look at those schedules to try to help you out to make, get your roster really set for a playoff run. But it is the time of the year to make sure these guys that are next man up are just rostered. You want to have them as true bell cow backs, potentially. Carlos Hyde, right? Not all that of not a really appealing name or a sexy name, but we've seen him before. He's a couple years removed from a 1,000-yard campaign. He can catch out of the backfield. He could be a bell cow back for Jacksonville, despite that team not really looking good at all on offense. Jameis Winston looks like he suffered a significant injury. Trevor Siemian came in yesterday. Taysom Hill has been sidelined with a concussion. We'll see what the Saints do moving forward. A really strong win from them defensively. They were great again, getting after Tom Brady and forcing some turnovers there, and they won that football game with Trevor Siemian under center for a big part of it. So we'll see what happens there with the Saints. I don't know. Cam Newton's name has been floated around. I just don't think Cam Newton's all that good, honestly. I mean, is he an upgrade over Trevor Siemian? Maybe he will. Maybe potentially. I don't know. I'm not sold. T.Y. Hilton already ruled out for week 9 concussion. Jalen Reagor was carted off yesterday. So those are the big names. I mean, Reagor's not a huge one, but maybe that means more work for Devontae Smith, who was a dud game yesterday, but the Eagles rolled all over them. Before we break, I wanted to touch base on just the top performers from the week, something that we've been doing here on this show. So your number 1 quarterback is Josh Allen. No real surprise. He was the most priced quarterback in daily. We talked about him on this show as being a top DFS play. He was ranked number 1 for me, and a lot of people consensus number 1 rank against Miami. He wasn't looking good for a bit there, but he ends up with 29 fantasy points, 2 passing touchdowns, 55 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. But a shout out to Mike White, number 3 in fantasy. 405 passing yards. It's the most passing yards since Vinny Testaverde in 2000. For the Jets, that is. The Jets. Hey, maybe they found themselves a quarterback. All jokes aside, he looked pretty good yesterday, throwing the rock and that big upset win. By the way, that was a bogus call in overtime. That was trash. Like, I have Cincy. Fine. I had the Jets on the spread. I mean, the spreads are actually pretty good. I mean, I had 10 picks right on the spread. Just the straight-up picks were absolute trash, and I lost Survivor. I'm not mad that I lost Survivor on that call. Like, it's me bringing up that call has nothing to do with it. You lose some, you win some. You lose most, and you win some. I think that's kind of the saying and how it goes. But, man, that was a brutal call in overtime. I don't know if you saw it, but Michael Carter initiated the contact. Like, he was the guy who put his head down first. I mean, I thought it was just a great defensive play. And since he would have got the ball back with a couple minutes left to move up the field and tie the football game with a field goal, instead they call that. It's a 15-yard penalty. It's an automatic first down. The Jets only need one more first down to ice the game. Just these refs, we talked about it before on this show with the refs and, and baseball, just too much say, controlling the games. I thought it was a brutal call, but a shout out to Mike White. Actually, a shout out to a lot of quarterbacks: Jimmy G, Justin Fields, Geno, Davis Mills, Cooper Rush, all top 10 quarterbacks this week in fantasy. A.J. Brown, number 1. He had 10 grabs, 155 yards and a touchdown. Michael Pittman Jr., another strong game from him, 10 grabs and 2 more touchdowns. And Lockett and DK, both strong games, finishing as top 10 wide receivers. They have been buy low candidates for me on this show for the past couple weeks. And if you're feeling a little down on them, then you can go ahead and flip them now. Right? I would keep them if you're in a good spot. But if you need starts this week, you're there on a bye, you need a win, you could move them, and now's the opportunity to do that. Michael Carter, 27 fantasy points, your RB1 for the week. We had him on this show as a great, props, 3.5 grabs plus money, over 18.5 receiving yards. We got that. 15 carries for 77 yards and a touch. He had 14 targets, 9 grabs, and 55 yards. Check down Mike White. Boston Scott and Jordan Howard, we can get into that in the next segment, but both of these guys, top 10 fantasy running backs this week. And then TJ Hawkinson, your top tight end, and a shout out to Pat Freiermuth, who had 7 targets, 4 grabs, 44 yards, and a touchdown as well. It's back-to-back strong weeks now for Pat Freiermuth. All right, we're 12 minutes in, and we're going to take our first break. We're going to talk about a couple running backs to pick up, some waiver wires, we'll talk about some quarterback streams, we'll hit up everything, and we will dive deeper into that as we get more news, probably tomorrow, but we will take an early look at the waiver wires. So keep your lock. Mean Streets continues right here on Game Plus Network. It's just going to be one of those days, I think. Significant news. Wasn't keeping track here on the comments. Please, if you have any questions, leave them there in the YouTube section. There's 3 games on the ice. We'll get to some shot props. We'll hit the fantasy hockey waiver wire. McCormick jumps in here. Sean McCormick. My goodness, with that trade, I thought you were lying. Vaughn Miller traded to the Rams? What? Seriously? Maybe the Broncos should. I mean, you trade Melvin Gordon now, don't you? I mean, you're looking at the big picture here, and you're moving these guys. I mean, hey, Tennessee, do you want Melvin Gordon? That is unbelievable. What's the return here? A second and a fourth? Is this what I'm seeing? A second and a fourth? Vaughn Miller to the Rams? Like, how is that even fair? The Rams are absolutely loaded. They're loaded. Tino's going to join me here in the next couple segments. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the Giants game today. But we've said this before on the show. Like, I don't know if Tino and I said it on the show. We've had conversations off the air about just football trades and not like the returns. It's weird. Like, Vaughn Miller is still a beast in the league, and he has a lot to offer. My goodness, that is the Rams, right? The Rams are The Rams are looking good. The NFC is going to be a bloodbath to get through the NFC with the Rams and the Bucks. The Packers, man, Zona just lost to the Packers. They're still pretty good, but that's crazy. That's a crazy trade. Ian Rappaport, the Broncos have traded Vaughn Miller to the Rams. The face of the franchise on the move. What a get for the Rams. Unbelievable. And then he also says Jameis Winston does, in fact, have a torn ACL. Sources after the MRI, he's out for the season. There's also damage to his MCL. Crazy. What a crazy moment here in the NFL. We get the news of Derrick Henry, and it's just like a gut punch. Like, it just, you don't want to lose that guy, King Henry, and then you see this Vaughn Miller. I mean, McCormick, you're the Broncos fan, dude. Like, initial thoughts? Like, I'd love to hear what you're going through here. He says he also got rocked too. Live bet the Bucks, the Chargers, try to make up for it. A big bet on the Vikings. Yeah, that's exactly what my thinking was full tilt. To lose the Survivor, the Bengals is one thing, and then a couple other straight up bets. Like I said, I went for some long shots and try to have like some underdog shots. And like the Eagles, I didn't think that they'd cover, and they really had their way with Detroit. And then the Jags, I thought could go in and make a game of it, and this is completely wrong. It's like, I'll just bet on the Vikings. Try to win some money back here, and it did not work. Ryan Lozano's with us, and he says, Sunday killed me, Bengals. Yeah, it's tough, man. You know what? Bengals, I kind of look back at it, and I think to myself, it's your own fault, right? It does. If you've been following the Bengals for years, they just, like, this isn't a team that should be favored by double-digit points against anybody. Is it a trap? They just beat the Ravens, and they looked so good beating the Ravens, and then they go into New York and they lose to that Jets team. But honestly, these things happen. I'm lucky that I went with the Chiefs on one of my survivors, and the only reason I did that is because I had already taken the Bengals before earlier on in the season, but also for the most part, I wanted to save Kansas City. And just, I'm never going to want to use Cincinnati again. And, it is what it is. You lose and the way it goes. Let's bring up, you got Tino, you got this comment here from, this is a true Bucks fan, Sean McCormick, a good friend of mine helping us out here at Anthem Sports and Entertainment, running the show for us in the control room. And he's a sharp football mind. I'd like to get the thoughts here instantly from a Denver fan here. So get rid of the whole group, Elway 2, blow it up from the ground up. To not be able to figure out the QB position since Manning left is a problem. Starts with management. I agree with you. Full on. I mean, they really haven't been able to figure out that quarterback position, right? I thought that they would draft Justin Fields this year. I thought they'd be in on drafting one. They were fine with Teddy as a quick fix. Maybe Rodgers is there next year. It's possible that, they can bring him on, but maybe they just start selling pieces too, and maybe Rodgers doesn't want to go there. But I agree with you, McCormick. It's got to be pretty frustrating to watch them try to figure out the quarterback position in Denver. Crazy. I did not expect that news here today. You just don't see trades like that really in the NFL. Big names like that too. So, like I said, if I'm Denver, I'm saying, Tennessee, do you want Melvin Gordon? Like, give us a fifth, give us a sixth. Like, here you go. And then Javonte Williams time. Let's go. Speaking of running backs, Tino, I gave you a list of a few that I was thinking about, that you could pick up if you needed some. So obviously this news here, I didn't really hear anything about James Robinson, and I just didn't hear anything last night when it came to Derrick Henry, but here we are. So up at the top of this list would indeed be Mcnichols. I think if you're a Henry owner, you want to be super aggressive grabbing this guy. It would really take over 60% of your budget. Over $60. I've seen personally guys like Damian Williams go high, Kenneth Gainwell go pretty high, and there being other backs inside those backfields. J.D. McKissic up at the top here is just a guy I feel like is disrespected. I just went through the best available backs under 60% owned. Now, McKissic had 8 catches. Washington is on a bye this week. Maybe that will fix up Antonio Gibson, but Gibson really just not getting a lot of play. They may have to sit him down with Washington being all but out of it this season. The offense is not good. McKissic's going to always be involved. Whether it's Jarrett or Antonio running out of the backfield, McKissic is going to be involved, and they're going to be playing from behind because the defense is not great and the offense is not good either, and they're just going to have to check down. McKissic's just an underrated running back, but I would put Mcnichols on the top of this list. But keep in mind, I do think that Tennessee's going to do something here. Obviously, they're trying out Adrian Peterson this week, so we'll see if they bring him in, if they bring in another veteran back. It's possible, but Boston Scott, Honestly, I don't like to sit here and say, oh, look at me, I got this right, I got this right. I mean, you just saw how much I got wrong off the show, but this is something that I saw coming. This is a conversation that I had with Jake on his show, a conversation we had on this show. I believe when Tino joined on Wednesday, we had the exact conversation. What I saw from Philadelphia last week against Las Vegas was a Kenneth Gainwell fumble and him missing pass blocking assignments. And Miles Sanders is really good at picking up the blitz. And Boston Scott came into that game last week when Sanders left, and he got first down and second down opportunities. He was there on the field pass blocking. And yesterday, he didn't touch the field at all in the first half. It was Boston Scott and it was Jordan Howard. It was 2019 all over again. Different coaching staff, but 2019 all over again with Boston Scott and Jordan Howard getting sprinkled in, and Miles Sanders kind of taking a backseat. And Sanders was nicked up a couple times, I think, towards the end of the 2019 season. And we were in this exact same spot with these two backs. Boston Scott is a veteran back, and I know some people are asking me, well, Nick Sirianni's like, he just can't get it together. Why wouldn't he have Boston Scott active and getting touches over the first few weeks? Why was Kenneth Gainwell in there getting touches? Like, Kenneth Gainwell is like the third down back. They use him in like when they're down in games or in the red zone on third down, or sometimes, sprinkle him in there. It has been frustrating, I'm sure, for Miles Sanders owners and for Sanders himself. But when he's sidelined, I expect this trend to continue. Now, they blew out a Detroit team, and if you look at the box score, you see Kenneth Gainwell had double-digit carries, but all of those came when the game was out of hand, and they just ran over a really garbage Detroit team. Moving forward, there's some tougher games before it gets super easy for them in the NFC East. Like they play Washington twice, the Giants, Dallas. Like, the schedule is really soft towards the end of the season, but there are some games like this week against the Chargers. They could be down, and we could see Kenneth Gainwell get a few targets, but Boston Scott is the guy to own in Philadelphia. Ty Johnson, as much as it went to Michael Carter, and Carter had a big bulk of the carries and the snaps, Ty Johnson is still valuable in deeper formats, PPR leagues, and it is next man up sort of deal with Ty Johnson if anything happened, and Michael Carter with Tevin Coleman being a non-factor. Same sort of deal with Carlos Hyde. Like, if you're a Robinson owner, you should really protect your investment there, because if anything, if Robinson, it looked like he avoided a significant injury and he's considered day-to-day, but if he just goes away for a bit and then it's Carlos Hyde, again, it's like the Jets, right? It may not be that appealing. It's not super efficient, but volume is king. It's opportunity. He's shown that he could be a quote unquote bell cow back, catch a couple balls out of the backfield and get some carries. And the same thing here for Mark Ingram, right? Like, don't you want to have Mark Ingram if you're an Alvin Kamara owner? I think you should. I think you should protect your investments coming into the final weeks here before we lead into fantasy football playoff time. Other guys I wanted to throw at you that I think should be owned, Tony Pollard. I think Pollard should be owned. Next man up. Alexander Madison should be owned. Samaje Perine should be owned, especially if you're a Joe Mixon owner. Even Ahmed over in Miami. Like, this guy should be owned too. It's sort of like next man up. If anything happens to Gaskin, you got Ahmed last year filled in as a full-time back at times, catching balls out of the backfield, getting double-digit carries. You just want to have your investment protected. It's like Devontae Booker. You're rolling him out. He's not that efficient, but he's a guy that's playing 80% of the snaps and getting a lot of the touches. So we'll have a deeper conversation about that this week on this show, but protect your investment, protect your running backs, have some stashes on your bench, because it will be indeed next man up, and you just you get ahead of it on the waiver wire. Crazy. Still can't believe that trade. It's unbelievable. One more here from McCormick. Since 2015. Look at these names. This is almost like Cleveland, when I told you I went to the Meaney lot and you see like 20 different quarterback jerseys and t-shirts. Since 2015, Osweiler, remember the contract too? I think Houston gave him that contract and then flipped him. Semien. Actually, it was Semien who got that contract. Nonetheless, I mean, these are brutal names. Lynch was drafted, Case Keenum, Flacco, Locke, Brennan Allen, Driscoll, Bridgewater. Ugh. Gross. No Winston. Most likely no Henry. Who got next fantasy football is the worst this year. You know what's not the worst? FTNDaily.com, DFS. If your season long is done, head on over to FTNDaily.com and maybe you can just play weekly. You don't have to worry about injuries. Play healthy guys. We had our guy, Fantasy Guru Drew, when he won 100K last night, right? 100K, I think I got the tweet up. 100K he won last night. And all the plays are right there for you at FTN Daily. It's in the exposures. It's in the articles. He had Cooper as his captain. He had Cousins, CeeDee Lamb, Adam Thielen, and he had Rush in there as well. He won $96,000. Congrats to Fantasy Guru Drew, who is an absolute GOAT. We have a lot of those guys over at FTNFantasy.com and FTNDaily.com. We're going to continue some waiver wire talk. We'll take a quick break and we'll look at wide receivers. Keep her locked. So I was just double checking here in the break to see what the Rams Super Bowl odds were. I believe we talked about them as futures, I think like after week 3 or 4, when I forget who it was that they just destroyed. Was it the Bucks? They beat the Bucks pretty easily, and then I think we talked about them get in on it now. They're plus 750 to win the Super Bowl. Prop Shop to get the best possible odds. BetMGM 7-1, Caesars 7-1, PointsBet 7-1, Unibet is plus 750, and then FanDuel 650. I don't know. I don't think that lasts very long. I think it's probably something that gets down to 5-1 or something like that. Like I said, the NFC is super tough. Like they're going to have to, like the Bucks, the Saints are not going to be a pushover clearly. In the playoffs, they're going to be a good team. Green Bay, I'm not sold on Green Bay. Like they're the team that I just like. I look at their roster and they're like 2 or 3 losses every year, and it's like, nah, they're not getting it done. But like they're not going to be an easy out. So it is going to be a bloodbath in the NFC, but the Rams are absolutely legit. That's a crazy addition, Vaughn Miller. I know he's not 100% healthy, but man, are you kidding me? Vaughn Miller with what? I still can't get over it. On offense, they can't be stopped. And on defense, they already had arguably the best defense. Like the secondary is great. You can't run on them. You can't throw on them. You can do some check downs. Like running backs have good days against them because they catch a bunch of balls out of the backfield, but they tighten up when they get inside the red zone. They don't give up a whole lot there. What an addition, Ram. What an addition the Rams got there with Vaughn Miller. Crazy. All right, Tino, you got some wide receivers here. This a few names again. The best guys under 60% own here that I went through. So I had Shepard and Tony. Like these guys are surprisingly, their ownership is under 60% in Yahoo and ESPN and NFL.com leagues. So I mean, can you get them now? I mean, if Yahoo, you could get them now. I think Yahoo, the standard works like you could drop somebody onto your bench and then you can go and grab these guys now. If I would do that. The old trick in Yahoo leagues that I used to do, and McCormick knows this, we've had this conversation about it, was just the Monday Night Football backup running back. So, I mean, who's the backup tonight? Penny, I guess, for the Giants. But, for example, if Saquon was playing tonight, Booker's ownership be like 6%, not out there. You go and grab Saquon for a guy that's on your bench. You drop him. Same thing in KC. You would grab the backup. I don't know, like maybe Jerick McKinnon, I suppose, tonight for KC. And then you have the backup if anything happened to that starting running back. Then all of a sudden, boom, you don't have to beat everybody in the waiver wire. And then if they don't get hurt, then you can drop them. And it kind of seems like it's a move that's weird. I explained this to one of my buddies in another league who just the lineups lock. The bench locks when that team plays. It's locked. When I tell him about the Yahoo trick, it bothers him. He doesn't like it. It's not everybody does it, but if you're playing Yahoo, you could do something like that. Shepard and Tony these guys should be added. Devontae Parker too. When he's healthy, he's productive and he's good. The schedule does get a little bit easier for Parker. It was a tough matchup this week, and he did okay, right? He's a guy that is pretty frustrating. It looks like Will Fuller had a bit of a setback. So it's kind of like the volume's there, the opportunity's there, but it's so tough. The reason all these guys here on the waiver wire, I mean, there's a lot of top wideouts that are not going to play this week. I mean, you got the Washington guys that are on a bye this week. You got DK and Tyler Lockett. You got the whole Tampa Bay crew. These guys are on bye this week. You weren't rolling out anybody in Detroit. Maybe Khalif Raymond, right, Tino? Maybe Khalif Raymond. But Jamison Crowder, healthy, targets. I complained about him last Monday not getting his his catch prop, but no Corey Davis. When he's healthy as well, it's like Parker. These guys just get targets. I kind of plug them in as like a flex play. Both of these guys, wide receiver 3s, low end 3s, flex plays. Henry Ruggs coming off the bye. I listen to a lot of the mic'd up stuff in football, and there was a bit of Greg Olsen was calling the shots there when Gruden left, was him basically saying to Ruggs, like, we got to unleash you, man. Like, you've just been trapped here inside this offense. I don't know if that was a Gruden thing or not, but, he's been unleashed the past couple weeks, so he's a guy that I would certainly grab if I could. Elijah Moore, I just hesitant on Elijah Moore. Like, if you have him in a deeper format in a redraft, I would look to sell him, to be honest. He was still, Denzel Mims had the Corey Davis role. He led the team in snaps, and then you had Crowder in there. You had both tight ends who played more snaps and ran more routes. So Elijah Moore, although he did have a good day at the end of the day with the box score, he only played 30 snaps compared to almost 60 from the other guys, and he didn't run a lot of routes, but they did find a way to get him involved, like another end around. A couple weeks ago, he had an end around for a touchdown. So depends on your format. I think he's a good buy low in dynasty leagues. I think he's an ad. I think you can grab him in deeper formats, but I think in those deeper formats, if you already had him in a redraft, you could look to maybe flip him. AJ Green, I think AJ Green should be rostered. I know I've said a lot of times sell Green, sell Kirk. I'm still into selling these guys, but they should be rostered. You get into the bye weeks here, you get into injuries. You want to have a guy linked to Kyler Murray, and also DeAndre Hopkins is not completely 100% healthy. Darnell Mooney, we've been down this road before for Darnell Mooney. He does seem like the number one option for Justin Fields, who, by the way, finally had a really good game. Jamal Agnew and Van Jefferson in there. Van Jefferson, I just can't quit him. I think he avoided a significant injury, but he's a deep threat guy. He's a stash. Like, he's a great stash, I think, in deeper formats. If anything happened to Kupp or Woods, we would see I would have Justin Jefferson ranked as a for sure lock and load wide receiver 3. I think he's really good. There's just a lot of the offense has gone to Cooper Kupp. And then Agnew in there is just, he led the team in targets. And Laviska Shenault is just that big name that doesn't seem to get a lot of work. I don't know if the fantasy community really likes Laviska Shenault, but Jamal Agnew, he's getting a lot of targets, and he looked good yesterday. And, Jake joked that Urban Meyer likes him some Jamal Agnew. I mean, maybe Trevor Lawrence does as well. He was looking his way quite a bit. I think they are in a really tough spot. I believe they have the Bills this week, so it's not a guy that you want to roll out there, but I think he's a better ad than Laviska Shenault. He's at least getting more work and more targets. They use him in other ways too. Line him up in the slot. I've seen him before out of the backfield, catching balls out of the backfield like that as well. There was something I wanted to bring up with that list. I forget. Oh yeah, Justin Fields. Quickly, Justin Fields. Is it a surprise that he just had his best game with Matt Nagy on the sidelines, not active, not coaching, not calling the plays? I saw design runs. I saw 4 runs of at least 14 plus yards. He hit the century mark on the ground. They lost the game, but it seemed like a more confident Justin Fields. Nagy just couldn't play to his strengths. Like, the first time that he had his start, there was no guys in motion. There were no design runs. Remember, Myles Garrett called out the entire, Chicago team that they just didn't use him in a way that they thought they would use him. That's Matt Nagy, right? He's clearly not. I would be shocked if Matt Nagy is still with this coaching staff. But I thought that was a good performance from Justin Fields. And a lot of people are saying he's not ready and that they could, just go back to Andy Dalton. I don't think that'll be the case. I think that was a good, strong performance from him. One more week, I do believe, before the bye happens. It's a tough schedule moving forward, but I think in Superflex leagues, he certainly should be a guy that should be rostered. All right, we'll take a break from... Actually, we'll do one more football segment. Tino, we'll bring Tino in. We'll talk about the Giants. We'll talk about the Chiefs. I know, he's probably not going to want to talk about the Giants, but I forced him. So we'll bring him in next. Mean Streaks continues here on Game Plus Network. All right, welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney and Tino Rodriguez _ on the Twitter machine. You are rocking the Giants hoodie, nice sharp white. You got the hat on backwards. Before we get into tonight here, we got about 3 segments here, and we do want to talk some NHL. So we'll go about 6 or 7 minutes here with you. But I do want to get your thoughts on the Vaughn Miller thing. I mean, that's that's a pretty good get for the Rams, right?
Yeah, pretty good when you have Aaron Donald on the line with him too. I don't know who's guarding who, and they got some other guys like Sebastian Joseph Day, who isn't a bad defensive player either. So, they're going to be good on defense, as if they weren't already. I'm just glad the Giants already lost to them by 30 because I don't have to see them again. And Danny's already upright and alive because I don't know if he would. The Giants have actually seen the Broncos and the Rams already, so now we're converging the two. Yeah, man, that's ridiculous. We don't know the contents of what the draft picks are yet. It just says 2 second-day picks. We assume probably a second. It's not a guarantee it's a second-round pick, so it could be less. It could be less than a second-round pick for all we know. So I don't know. The Rams don't have any draft picks like for the foreseeable future. I think they're okay with that, and I would be too if this is what my team looked like. I mean, how are you not okay with that?
Well, that's it, right. They get the Super Bowl. They've traded so many picks. I mean, they're all in completely. They feel like now is the time. And yeah, I mean, they're going to be tough to beat. There's no question. So tonight we got KC and the Giants, 10.5 now I'm seeing the spread. That was 10 last night. And this is kind of what I'm thinking here for some picks and some props. I would really like to get involved with some Sterling Shepard and some Kadarius Toney. I will have that in the bet tracker when books release this. But Giants plus 10, 10.5, even better. Devontae Booker over 48.5 rushing yards and over 16.5 receiving yards. I feel like we could get some garbage time late. The Giants come back here and make a game of it. Or they could hang around if, KC continues to be careless with the football, right? We've seen that a lot so far this season. I think Mahomes has a pick in like 5 or 6 straight games. Booker, I wanted to get the over on his 14.5 rushing attempts too. I feel like you definitely can run on KC, and you hear all the time. I would like to get your thoughts. Do they try to slow the pace down here a little bit with Booker, or are they going to be just like, throwing the football all over the field? I see Darrell Williams here at 14.5 carries, and Mahomes is plus money at 2.5 touchdowns, and then Tyreek Hill at over 6.5 receptions. I don't know. Let's just have the Giants conversation now. Like, what do you think about Booker in the prop world tonight?
Well, I think if the Giants want to win and compete, they have to slow the game down. I had this talk with one of my close Giants friends, and seeing how the Chiefs have played, everyone's leaning to let Danny throw the ball. He had 400 yards passing against the Saints this year. After seeing Mike White's performance, I'm not going to tell him no, right? We don't want Danny to not eat. But at the same time, you're not going to beat the Chiefs that way. Not on the road, not in Kansas City, not on Monday night. So they got to slow the game down. And you got to look towards the defense to have a game similar to the Panthers game where they kept them in check. They kind of rattled Darnold, forced some turnovers, and, kept those playmakers in check. So, ideally, that's the game script for the Giants. That's what you have to do if you want to keep this close or if you even want a thought of winning. Now, is that going to happen? I don't think so. I don't know about Booker's rushing attempts. I do like Booker to score. I like him scoring out of the backfield. I actually like both running backs to score out of the backfield today. But in terms of plays that I have, the one guy I'm really looking at in terms of value in this game, and I like that you have Pat Mahomes over 2.5 passing touchdowns. I actually just bet that in the same game that I had. And one of the guys I have that has really good odds is Mecole Hardman at plus 260 on DraftKings. That's anytime scorer. I could see everyone leaning towards Tyreek Hill, and deservingly so, right? The Giants are susceptible to the big play, which is fine, and naturally you lean to Hill. But Mecole Hardman's that same player, and he's been pretty quiet for the most part, which is why his odds are where they are right now. But at plus 260 in a game where I see Mahomes throwing 3 touchdown passes, right in Travis Kelce, he's getting one. Then you can make a case somewhere else. You could make a Byron Pringle argument if you really want, but my odds or my play is going to be on the odds of Mecole Hardman here. I think he could easily get it on like a jet sweep in the red zone. So maybe it doesn't count as a touchdown pass, but I just see him getting involved in this game because of his speeds and what the Giants defense aren't good at, and that's covering the big play.
Yeah. What do you think about Daniel Jones? He's at 1.5 touchdown passes. You can get that plus 118 over at FanDuel.
Yeah.
Caesars plus 115. And his rushing yard prop is at 21.5.
Take the rushing yards. Take the rushing yards is what I'll say. There's still no Saquon. And for the same reasons I don't love Booker's rushing attempts, it's because I think, again, I think the Giants are going to come out and try to set the tone and win this game. And if they do, it's going to be with Danny's legs. Danny will, if he's running the ball at all, he will easily pass 21.5 rushing yards. It's just what it is. You know what I mean? If they don't utilize him at all, yeah, he'll get sacked and lose a bunch of yards and he'll end up at 8 or 9. But if they use him in the running game the way they should, he passes 21.5 easy. I actually have a name that sickens me to say that I see Danny throwing a touchdown pass to today. And it's going to be Evan Ingram. Shout out to Evan Ingram, who I'm begging we trade by tomorrow. And what better way to trade him than get him a touchdown tonight at plus 330. Feed Evan Ingram today. This is the only time I'll ever say this. Feed Evan Ingram. Let him score a touchdown at plus 330 and get him off the team tomorrow. Please. Please. But I do see him feasting. Yeah.
His catch props at 2.5, but it's really juiced to the over, like minus 179. I was thinking about, I think he catches 3 or 4 passes in this game. 30.5 is his receiving yard. His first touchdown is 22-1 for first touchdown. It's a long shot, but who knows? It's always tough to pick the opposing team against the Chiefs for the first touchdown, right? Because you just feel like they're going to march up the field and score. So wait, you liked Booker yards, but you don't think he gets to the attempt? Like 48 yards is really nothing against this Chiefs defense.
Well, let me just pull this up. You have his reception yards too, right? Yeah, see, over 16.5 reception yards would be the play I'd rather of the two. Like playing both sides of him would scare me just because they do have Elijah Penny who, for what it's worth, is, a thumper. He's a ground guy just as much as Booker. And the Giants are weird. The Giants do this stuff with Saquon all the time. If they get behind early enough, they're going to scrap the run game entirely. So I would rather get in on the receiving yards, which could be hit pretty easily if that's at 16.5 by Devontae Booker over his rushing yards, which is, he needs like a 50-yard rushing day. I mean, both are decent plays. I think Booker gets work. I just think game script dependence and just kind of how they've used Booker in the past, I think the receiving yards will probably be the easier sweat of the two.
I would agree with that. Yeah. My hope and my feeling is that they try to run the rock here a little bit. They take advantage of a weak run defense and maybe he can get to that 50. But if the game does get out of hand, I think we certainly could get, it's up to 18.5 now, his receiving yards since last night. So I think that could jump up, and his catches at 2.5, but it's just juiced to the over at minus 145. But I don't even mind that minus 145 at 2.5 grabs. He probably does catch maybe 3 passes. Anything else to add in this game? Like, do you feel like if Shepard was at 5.5 grabs and Tony was at 4.5 grabs, would you like either of those two, one or the other? Or there's probably some risk in taking Tony in case he does suffer. I mean, both of these guys could suffer a setback.
I actually think of the two, I feel more confident in Tony based on what I've seen from practice and just kind of how they used him as of late since he took off. He made a crazy one-handed catch in practice that people were pumping out onto Twitter, and I'm not even on Twitter and I get to see this. So, the thing with Shep, it's a hammy injury. And, that's kind of the stuff that could very easily have a setback. You run a route the wrong way. Whereas Tony, it's his ankle. I think you tape it up. He seems fine. He's been practicing. He seems in good spirits based on his press conferences. I think they're going to want him out there. I think if he's out there and if he has the lower reception total of the two, which he probably should based on how they've played so far this season, I'd lean towards Tony at a lower reception total than Shep. But with that said, I don't see Tony scoring. I think Tony, for some reason, is just going to be the guy on the Giants who won't be able to score touchdowns. And the touchdown guy out of the receiving group is Shep. So if you can make sense out of that, I think Shep is more likely to score a touchdown than Tony, but Tony probably gets more work than Shep. It's just, that is the New York Giants. Yeah. That is, meaning this is the life I live. What I'm telling you right now, none of it will ever make sense to me. None of it will ever make sense.
It's all right, dude. I mean, I cheer for the Eagles, so I mean, we're in the same bait. McCormick's over there crying in his own tears here today. Just lost his guy Vaughn Miller. He says he's reading a second and a third for Miller. Broncos retain $9 million in salary as per Schefter. All right, there you go. All right, we'll switch gears. Got a little. What's up? What's up? Michael Chap just joined us. If you're here for the hockey picks, we got some shot props. We're gonna hit the waiver wire next too. Mean Streets continues here. Appreciate you, Tino. Keep her locked though. Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you. Gonna just wrap up the show with a couple hockey segments here. Gonna hit the waiver wire. Justin says down 18.86 and he has Hill. Thoughts, PPR? I think you could be fine. It's been very boom or bust with Tyreek Hill, but as Tino said in the last segment, they do give up some big plays. I think we'll see Tyreek Hill more involved early and often. I think you got a shot, man. 18.86 is really tough, but if he catches 6 balls for 100, you're definitely right there. And if he finds the end zone, I think you'll be well on your way. Good luck to you, Justin. I need him as well. I need 8 points. You better get 8, and I'm gonna lose my mind. Okay, fantasy hockey waiver wire. This is over at FTNFantasy.com. Tino, I got a couple boards there. You can throw either one up if you want. Here we go. Forwards. These are players, like the best players under 60% owned that I like. I mean, Troy Terry scored a goal last night. I think deep leagues when it comes to Troy Terry. Shout out to Ryan Getzlaff who assisted that. He's got the most points in franchise history with the Ducks. It was a cool moment for him. But Josh Morris, Drake Batherson, these are guys that were in the breakout column over at FTNFantasy.com. I really like Josh Norris and Drake Batherson. Last year, towards the end of the season, these guys were really good, and they've basically picked up where they left off last season. And for the Sens, they're a team that plays 4 games. There's 7 teams that played twice this week, so this is a week where maybe you can cut ties with certain players. Cole Caulfield just got sent down. I saw that coming. I mean, he played on the 4th line last night. Cole Caulfield's going to be fine. Habs fans need to relax. They didn't ruin an elite, quote unquote, elite prospect. He's gonna be sent back down. He's gonna be back up in a bit. But yeah, he was getting overdrafted anyways. But you could swap out Cole Caulfield maybe for a player on this list or a player playing on a team that plays four games this week. And you have Ottawa tonight, tomorrow, Wednesday, Saturday. This is a week to attack the schedule. Light nights on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Talk all the time about streams. Just cut your ties with guys that you're not going to play on a Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday as guys that are borderline rosterable. You drop them for players who are going to play on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday and get the most out of your ads. I don't think I have a whole lot to say about anything on this list. Lucas Raymond, absolutely. Get him now before it's too late. Mike Hoffman, Victor Arvidsson, these guys are volume shooters, former 30-goal scorers, and they're having strong starts this season. Tino, you got the other board there with defensemen on the list. Yeah, Moritz Seider, same sort of deal. I mean, he's got points in like 6 straight, I do believe. He's getting a lot of ice time. He's touching a lot of categories. Rasmus Anderson is on that first power play in Calgary. He's eating up a lot of those minutes that Mark Giordano had last season. Evan Bouchard's getting a lot of ice time. He's a former first-round pick. He's starting to really just take shape in Edmonton. He's a terrific defenseman, getting power play opportunity on the second unit. Josh Morrissey, power play time as well. Cam Fowler, power play time. There's a lot of dudes here that are getting power play time on the blue line. So we have a lot more over at FTN@fantasy.com. I'm going to take one more break here, and there's only 3 games in the NHL, but I got a couple shot props for you guys to target as well. So Mean Streets continues. One final segment here on Game Plus Network. Welcome back one final time here on Mean Streets. My guy McCormick taking care of us here. Says Vrabel says Henry undergoing surgery tomorrow on his foot as per Schefter. Man, what a tough blow. What a tough blow, man, to lose Derrick Henry. Oh, that's rough. It's so rough. All right, let's try to win some money then. Make our lives feel a little bit better here. NHL shot props. There's only 3 games, so I got a few here for you, but Darnell Nurse is probably my favorite one on the board. I know I like this guy quite a bit. We gave him last week and got some questions about, somebody said they'd never play a defenseman for a shot prop. I don't mind defensemen because they log so many minutes. Like, look at the minutes that he's had. 32, 27, 27, 25, 25, 23, 25. He's had at least 3 shots in 4 straight games, 5 of his 7. The other 2 that he didn't get the 3 shots, he had 2 shots. He's a volume shooter. He loves to shoot. He gets so much ice time. It's a good spot here against Seattle. They've given up a lot of rubber. So I would go to him and then Zach Hyman first. If you can get Yanni Gourde, he's interesting at 1.5. Alex DeBrincat in here next. He's been hitting recently. We do have Patrick Kane returning to the lineup this week or tonight, actually. So, but I think I'm still fine with it. I still like DeBrincat. You know, Kane may be in play at 3.5, but a matchup here against the Ottawa Senators, I expect a lot of goals. I like the over. I think you could take the Sens as road dogs here too. Plus money, I'm seeing plus 121. I think I'd jump on that one. But DeBrincat has cleared 2.5 shots in 4 straight games and 5, 6, 7 games this season, 7 of his 9. But DeBrincat in play at 2.5. You may be able to get Drake Batherson at 1.5. It's going to be juice to the over, but you can put him into a parlay with maybe Alexander Ovechkin, who loves to shoot the puck. I mean, he's only 150 away from Gretzky. I say he does it, but he's obviously a volume shooter. He's always among the leaders in shot attempts. So I see Batherson. You got him there at 2.5. Some books may have him at 2.5. Again, I made these last night, so I'm still not seeing anything on Drake Batherson, but DraftKings usually has him at 1.5. But if your book does offer 2.5, I've seen it at plus money over at Bet365. I would jump on that. And then Stamkos is just to throw another on the board. But honestly, I would rank them Nurse, Ovechkin, DeBrincat, Kane, if you can get Kane, and then Batherson. Don't forget Josh Norris as well. Get involved with these guys from a DFS standpoint. The Hawks give up a lot of rubber. Thanks to everybody for taking the time to hang out here today. Rangers screwed me last night. I needed that game to go to overtime. I don't know what to tell you there. Rangers look good. Shesterkin looks great. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a good one. Cheers.